So this week on Dead Men Talk, being a very special episode, this is the finale of the first season. So I wanted to make it special. So I've invited another guest along, and this one, I won't begin to rattle off all the things this guy's done. I'm going to let him tell you about it because he's done some amazing stuff. And if you've not already, you will get to know him as the voice of A Necessary End in the new audiobook, which is now available. So welcome to the show, Dave Jackson.
Hey, good to meet you finally, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It seems like it's taken a while. I mean, it was late last year, but almost a year ago, I think we first started working on it.
It was a long time, and unfortunately, I'm a very slow audiobook reader, and that did, and then just to once it was done, it's like felt like we were waiting for months. And
we were.
When's this book gonna come out?
It was like February. I hit the button on it at the end of February, and then I didn't realize that the QA section that the ACX put it through was going to take so long. But I'm glad it did. I'm getting some great feedback on the audiobook.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
But so we'll get to talk about that a little bit more detail in a bit. Just for the benefit of the listeners, if there's any listeners that aren't familiar with yourself, just sort of tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what it is that you've done up to now.
Okay. My name's Dave Jackson. I was born in Akron, Ohio. It's about half an hour south of Cleveland. And my family is from the UK. And they came here and settled in the deep South in Georgia, Alabama, places like that. So you can imagine me as a little kid hearing all these accents, the strangest, the most bizarre accents you could ever imagine. And I kind of put all those in my computer. And now it seems like I get a lot of work just because I can do all these weird voices and stuff. And my sister said, Davey, how many voices are in your head? And I'm like, I'm not sure I want to answer that question. So I was a musician for years. I played like hard rock, punk kind of music for a long time. And it kind of fell into, like in the mid 80s, into the hair metal thing. And I never was a real fan of hair metal. I know there's a resurgence, and a lot of people really like all the bands and stuff. I was never really a huge fan. I like Rat, and I like Dokken. That's about it as far as the hair bands go, because it seems like all the singers sound like little girls. I like a little more manly voice for my hard rock. So I'm more Alice Cooper, Gene Simmons kind of,
I'll be with you on that one. Yeah. Absolutely.
Although Ghost, I am a big fan of Ghost. I was screaming Ghost like in 2008 or 2009. I saw a picture of him in a magazine from Europe. And I was like, whoa, who's this? And I checked him out. And I started asking everybody, Ghost. And they're like, oh, yeah, never heard of him. And now they're all wearing Ghost t-shirts.
Yeah.
And now it's not quite as much fun,
What I love about that band, just to sort of sidetracking, I'll jump in. I'm a massive Ghost fan as well, which I think we've discussed along the way. So we first saw them. I discovered them for myself back in, I think it was 2011. It was a download festival at Donington. And
nice.
I'd seen them. I think I'd seen them mentioned in Metal Hammer magazine just before, and then I had to see them, and that was during their Papa Emeritus 1 stage.
Yeah.
And then I've seen them a couple of times since. Went to see them at the Albert Hall in London last year, I think it was still. But they keep reinventing themselves. So even though they're in the spotlight, you still really don't know what he's going to do next.
Yeah, he's he's a very smart person, and incredibly talented. I saw some of the bands he was in before that. We're talking about
Subvision was one of them, I think.
What's his name?
It's Tobias Forge, isn't it?
Tobias Forge. Yeah, right. Tobias. Yeah, I don't know why that name I always think that's a cool name, and I always forget it.
I'm writing that one down.
I thought when they got the Cardinal, I thought, oh man, what's this all about? But now I'm like, yeah, and you know, and he'll be gone soon. You know, that's just how they do it.
Yeah.
But they just keep coming up with new stuff, and I'm like, okay, they're at a dead end now. Nope, they come up with something. Like, how do you do that? You know? Most bands can't even come up with one image, or you know, and then the amount of songs they haven't. That's not an old band, and they've already got all kinds of, you know, lots of really good. I always thought it was funny that Blue Oyster Cult, who I really love, but Blue Oyster Cult has like 500 songs, and they've got like 15 that are just perfect, you know.
Yeah.
And somehow Ghost has figured out how to sound like those 15 perfect ones and keep doing them.
Yeah.
And Blue Oyster Cult hasn't even figured out how to do that. I'm like, you are out Blue Oyster and Cult, Blue Oyster Cult.
He's I don't throw around the phrase genius all that often, really, but I think it's not just musically. He's a visionary. I think I've read in an interview that he wanted Ghost to be like a stage show. Really, he wanted to stand back one day and be like the director of it, not necessarily the person on the stage. I can see him doing that one day and turning it into something other than a rock band.
Yeah, he really is thinking ahead.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And I like the best bands, I think, are the ones who have an image and the music. You know, I had a friend accuse me one time of saying, man, you just like any band that has an image. That's not really true.
No.
There's lots of bands who have an image and no music, you know, and there's lots of bands who have really good music, but, you know, they just look like four frumpy guys in a flannel shirt standing on stage. But the best ones are the ones I think that have both of it really going on. Even a simple thing like the Ramones, 4 leather jackets, the 4 haircuts, everybody, you know, they look like, you know, I always thought they were brothers when I was a little kid. And
I think I did actually. It's a very, very easy assumption to make.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, to me, my favorite bands are the ones who have it both going on, and you can't have one without the other. It just doesn't work. But yeah, my band had I played in a band called the Mighty Fox for quite a long time, and like I say, we started getting lumped in with the hair band thing. Yeah. And I just couldn't get out of it because we were doing so well. I kept thinking, man, I think I'd like my music to be a little more aggressive, because I was listening to a lot of early Metallica and Megadeth and Exodus, all these, you know, real heavy bands, and a lot of underground punk stuff, Fear and the Misfits and things. And I was really, you know, I still like it catchy. You know, I like a heavy song that's catchy. I kind of like just bubblegum music disguised as metal, you know.
I'm totally the same, and I've not been able to explain what it is that because I got mates who go for real sort of thrash metal or like the real dark, the real death metal sort of thing that you cannot understand. I need to know what they're singing about. There needs to be a melody in there, but it needs to be sort of, I can go for softer stuff. I'm into folk music as well, for Christ's sake. But it's got to be a heavy melody in there for really hooking in. So,
I always tell everybody, if it's got loud drums and loud guitar, I'm in. You know?
There you go.
But if it's got a catchy chorus, and some of these guys, they're singing like Cookie Monster. I mean, the Cookie Monster voice is just like, you know, macaroons, chocolate chip. You're like, what's he saying? You know, I'm like, you know, it's just.
Me and my wife went to see Slipknot at the beginning of the year, which was great. I mean, it's the band that she's wanted to see for years. And I'm not such a massive fan. I'm a big admirer of Corey Taylor and Stone Sour and other things, not necessarily Slipknot. But Behemoth were supporting them. And I couldn't listen to them before. Seeing them live, amazing. I was really hooked in. But now I cannot listen to them sort of if I can't see them.
Really good band, yeah. So I did that for a bunch of years, and we had a pretty nice show. We had flamethrowers and all this stuff going on in bars,
Fantastic.
And we had all this cool stuff, aircraft lights underneath the drums and smoke and fog and all that stuff. And people were like, man, I'm like, hey, you got to put on a show. And we were the only ones doing that weren't, you know, famous. And then Great White ruined all of that. When they're sparkling, and it's unfortunate because our flames are like 10. You could adjust them you know, between like 3 feet and 10 feet. And it looks great on the side of the stage, but they're just poof, pops. You can put your hand in it and, you know, you know, you put your hand through it. But those, everybody's like, oh, you guys are all dangerous now. I'm like, no, that's not dangerous, man. I mean, we had a fireman actually built them. Wow. And so, but back then you didn't really need a license to do it. And then Great White with their dopey sparklers. Sparklers!
Put an end to all of it.
Man, at least do something cool, metal, the flames, man. Sparklers? You set the place on fire, you nitwit.
And that was that.
Stupid. Yeah, now that changed everything, but it only takes one time, you know, and everything's different.
Yeah.
Ruined it for all of us, thanks.
I'm sure a lot of people are probably still bitter about that.
Yeah, oh God, people lost their lives on that, man.
Was it with that band that you were on the same bill as Blue Oyster Cult at one time?
Yeah, we played with a lot of famous people down the line. The Blue Oyster Cult thing, it was just funny. I just happened to find the ticket stub and I posted it. And because of the rest of the band said, oh man, I lost my stub. And they tried to keep some of this memorabilia. And I actually found mine. So I posted it mostly so they could see it. And they started reminding me of the night we had. And it was a perfect night because we could play all original stuff. We could use our effects. And both bands just killed that night. It was really a good night. And but I forgot, they backstage they give the bands complimentary beer and some whiskey and like a tray with lunch meats and stuff on it. And we ran out of booze. So our bass player Al McKenzie, he also plays in that band Firehouse.
Right.
So we ran out of beer and stuff, and Al said, I'll just go get some. So him and I started walking through the hallways looking, and we found Blue Oyster Cult's dressing room. Al goes right in and takes all their beer. I'm like, dude, I'm not even sure I would do that, but
I can't think they were too happy with that.
You know what? I think we were kind of mad because there was a radio interview. I was driving down the road listening to the radio interview, and the DJ was going, man, you guys got a great opening band, Fox. And they were like, the Mighty Fox, who said, oh, they must be like hot girls. And I remember at the time going, hey, man, I mean, they didn't know. No. But there must have been something in that. Oh, Mighty, we're girls, huh? So Al,
at least you didn't go on in dresses or anything to show
They were
up.
Disappointed when they saw us. Let's just say that.
Till they heard you play, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it was a good show. But yeah, we did that for a long time, and then it just I had a daughter, and I thought, man, you guys, I can't keep traveling because we were gone at least 6 months of the year traveling all over the country, and I just told him, man, I don't want to be one of those dads who's just not there. Yeah. So I said, well, I'll do one more tour, and then I got to shut it down. Well, not totally shut it down, but I'd just rather concentrate on recording and doing stuff like that. Yeah. And I thought, well, I'm the lead singer. They're going to be done. And I felt bad because we had 4 band guys. Everybody depends on you, and then we had 2 roadies, a light man and a sound man, and all their families. So they're relying on you to keep doing this. So it was like my 2-week notice. Guys, I got one more tour, and I gotta take a step back. So we did it. Still didn't hit it big. And I came home and I bailed out. And just told them what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to break the band up, but I just couldn't keep doing that. And I thought, boy, these guys are going to be a mess. I'm the singer. What are they going to do? They kept right on going.
Reverse psychology.
Well, thank you very much. Well, it was one of those things where everybody could actually sing in that band. We could do like real nice 4-part harmonies and stuff, which is odd for a metal band, know. And they're like, we don't need you. I was like,
that's nice.
I felt like a big jerk.
Are they still going, or how long did they carry on?
We still play together.
Yeah, awesome.
Al plays in Firehouse, like I said. So in the summertime, especially, he's playing like stadiums or real big places. They double up. They like it. One band can't really pull enough. So they play with Poison, Rat, Cinderella, some of those bands, and so they all play together. So that way there's so many people, they all can make enough money. But and Al does play shows by himself. I mean, they'll still draw a few thousand people every night. So yeah. So I mean, he gets to tour all over the world, So he's a music junkie, So he's really into the thing. But when he comes home, when I came home from tour, I was tired. I just wanted to read comic books and watch movies. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. Yeah. Al's a maniac. He'll come home off a big tour with all these big famous bands, and he'll ring me up. Hey, you want to do some gigs? What? You need to calm down, man. Calm down.
I'm about as far from that world. Sort of. I've always been a daydreamer that one day I would, even just like a pub band around it. That was my kind of vision, that I'd get some mates together, we'd do the pub circuit around there, whatever. Still not happened. But I'm so far removed.
You can make it happen, man. It can happen.
One day, we'll see. I've always had a problem with, I wouldn't say stage fright, because I'd never really played outside my bedroom until sort of a year or so ago. But I can now play comfortably in the house. I can probably sing along a little bit, when people are around, but my anxiety kind of gets the better of me, I suppose. But
you don't seem like the type to have stage fright, man. Just look, when I first started, I would sing and I would look over people's heads just a little bit, so it looked like I was looking at them, but I'm really looking over their heads and now I just look straight in the eye. I've done it so many times, I don't care. It doesn't get it. My mom was a singer, and she said that when she first started, she would just imagine everybody was naked, no clothes, and she said she would just stay on stage and laugh.
I hear that a lot, and I've always wanted to ask, does that work, that theory? Because it would just make me laugh, so put me off whatever it is. It did for her,
I guess.
So from being a musician into like voiceover work, how did that come about?
Well, I know my voice doesn't sound great today. I had a rough day last night, and it's usually pretty strong, but I've been doing this a lot today. Too much going on. But I was always asked to like read something in school or something like that. And I can change my voice to sound like all this weird stuff, or like Bugs Bunny. I think I made a wrong turn in Albuquerque. You just do. You start doing all this stuff as a kid, And I started, I would imitate my teachers and stuff in school. We had a teacher in middle school. We had a teacher. He was the principal, and he talked like this. And he would always say the same thing at the morning announcements every day. He would say, He would tell us what we're having for lunch, hamburger sandwiches and pickle slices. And he would say all this stuff. And then he would say, if it was warm enough, he'd say, please, if you're going outside after lunch, please put on a wrap. And we would just sit in class and laugh. One day, like a moron, I sneak into the office. Who does this? I sneak into the office and I grab the microphone and I start making up my own announcements in Mr. Burke's voice.
Brilliant.
Dude, and I started talking about raps and all this stuff. And I started doing all this crazy stuff. It sounded like Kermit the Frog. And I shut the door and I could hear all these feet running. Like there's a terrorist in the
oh no
on the microphone, and I can just hear feet running towards me to shut me down, my pirate radio station, and I can also hear classrooms of kids just laughing their brains out. So I just got into the voice thing early, and then after music, my girlfriend, I did a little demo of a bunch of cartoon voices and stuff, and she sent it somewhere without me even knowing about it. She took that little demo and she emailed it to some companies, and the very next day I'm getting emails saying, hey, we want to work with you. And I'm like, what's going on here? And she said, oh, I sent that thing in. I said, that little cartoon demo? And she said, yeah. And suddenly I was doing like, it was a lot of European stuff. I was doing like the voice of Lego Batman but there's a lot of Lego Batman. Yeah. Let me just say that, because there's so much out there. Not one guy can do it all. So I was doing that, and I was basically just doing, Snake Plissken, doing that kind of voice, she said one day she wanted to go out, and I had so much Batman work to do.
Right.
She said, can I say the S word? I mean, I don't know how the Zoom works. I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, she said she really wanted to go out that night, and I said, I can't. I have Batman shit to do. And she said, did you ever think those words would come out of your mouth? I can't go out tonight. I have Batman.
Maybe as a kid.
Yeah. Of course, I thought it might happen. So that's how I got started, and it led into commercial work. I do a lot of commercials. I've had little pieces on like the Travel Channel and some TV stuff, mostly radio and things like that. But I always wanted to do audiobooks. I read an excerpt of the Vampire Lestat, and I read that, and I sent it to some companies in the middle of my music career, and I didn't get any responses. And I found out later, it's so hard to get into audiobooks. It's the same thing as music, if you don't have a manager or someone or an entertainment lawyer to submit your stuff, they just, if they get something unsolicited, they just toss it. They don't even listen to it. They just toss it in the trash, And I didn't know that at the time. I knew that's how music worked, but I didn't know that in the audiobook world, you also have to have an entertainment lawyer, or you're just not gonna.
Right.
They're not even gonna listen. If they hear it, it's a 1 in a million. The guy was bored and put it in and happened to like it, and that just doesn't happen.
To be fair, I until you just said that, I didn't know that was like that with audiobooks myself. Anyway, I thought sort of not everyone can sort of do it. I think you've got to have a certain quality and a certain talent for the voices to be able to do it successfully. But I just kind of thought that if you wanted to do it, there's places that you can go on, you can send stuff off to, and people will be sort of clambering over themselves for it. But
unfortunately, there's not a lot of good audiobook readers. I'm finding out there are a few that my sister's a real big audiobook person.
Okay.
And I was too. I had a job where I just drove around town. I was a courier, and I would drive around my little pickup truck, and I would just listen to audiobooks all day long. And there was a guy named Frank Muller who, I mean, this guy could read his grocery list, and you'd be like riveted.
Wow. This
guy was so good, and he died young. He died in a motorcycle crash, and but he read a lot of early Stephen King stuff. I mean, if you Google Frank Muller, you'll see the list. He did a bunch of work in a very short time.
Okay.
And he did some of the Dark Tower Stephen King books. And the guy was he did what's that Tribulation series, the Christianity End of the World series by was it Terry Jenkins, and Left Behind, that series.
Okay.
He did a lot of that stuff too.
Cool.
And he was an actor, but he didn't. I really don't think he did a ton of work acting. I saw him in a McDonald's commercial once.
Okay.
That's about it. That's about the only thing I've. But man, that guy had a voice, and if you see narrated by Frank Muller, even if it's a book you're not interested in, you listen to.
I'm gonna after this, I'm gonna Google it and find out, because I was a bit late to the party with audiobooks, which is odd, seeing though I've had now 2 out. But I wasn't until, like yourself, I got a job where I was driving around a lot. I used to listen to music sort of day in, day out. And then I think I bought just a James Herbert audiobook just on the fly, and I was so drawn into it. I didn't think if I was out driving or whatever that I'd be able to concentrate on the story, but it's amazing how it sort of bleeds into you, even though you're not really think you're taking it in, And from there I found them, they're very soothing to me, and I can kind of, I do read a lot, but I think I absorb a story better in audio form.
Really?
Than reading it. Yeah. So it was great for me to be able to get to a stage where I could have one of my stories out there. And
I hope I did it well for you.
You did an amazing job, and I wasn't doing a cheap plug there. I mean, so we'll go on to how A Necessary End came to be, because from my perspective, it was quite easy. I'd written the book already. I'd already got it out there in print form, and I thought I stumbled across how ACX and Audible works, and the fact that I could just sort of put my book up there and sort of see if anyone wanted to do it. So what was the process like for you in terms of when you first saw my book, for example, and sort of how did that start off for you, from when you saw it to then when you auditioned to then when we started recording it?
Well, I went to California for a conference on voiceover actors. So I went to the conference, and I met people who were doing a lot of video games, which I do a lot of video games as well. But I went there, and they kept saying, you can make a nice living in audiobooks if you just kind of keep it going. I thought, well, I don't want to read anything I'm not really interested in. It's funny you mentioned James Herbert, because one of the very first books I ever read was Rats.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. I was pretty young, man. And I was reading that book, and I had saved my money to get it.
Wow.
And I had it laying around the house one day, and my dad picked it up. And my dad, he's a big, mean guy. And I thought, oh, crap. I saw him reading it. I thought, and he gave it back eventually, and he said, that's quite a book there, son. I was like, oh, buddy, I thought I was going to get in trouble. Because there's some really spooky parts, and there's a little sex thrown in there. And I thought, oh, man, I'm not supposed to be reading it. But that was my start into horror. Okay. And then as I grew older, Stephen King, I discovered him because everyone was talking about him, and some Dean Koontz. But then I discovered H.P. Lovecraft sort of on my own. I think I might have heard Call of Cthulhu by Metallica and thought, what's that? What? And it's
exactly the same as me. Yeah, I discovered Lovecraft through that song. So.
Yeah, and I started, and then I read an interview with Stephen King saying when he was a kid, he found some Lovecraft in his dad's belongings, and he read that, and it freaked him out, of course. And so I really got into Lovecraft, and I still can that's an author I can take back out and reread it and think, wow, this is great, because he uses such a weird language, and a lot of times I'll have to get a dictionary and look up he's got no problem with throwing a word at you you've never even heard before.
No, he can make up a whole language on his own, and you just let him do it. So.
Yeah, he was that good. So, but I've always been drawn to horror and science fiction and things like that, fantasy, and it's just it's very interesting to me. It's hard for me to read about mundane day-to-day stuff, man. When I read a book or hear a book, I want an escape. Same as music. I want some sort of escape from just the hassles of the day, And so I've always been drawn to the horror thing. And I saw your book. Yours was the first one I've ever done, and that's why another reason it took me so long. Right at the end, I started getting a rhythm for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure took me long enough. But so I read your excerpt, the little blurb that that you can read about the book, and I was like, oh, this is the one right here. I read a bunch of them. One was pretty good. It was kind of a sci-fi end of the world thing, which is fun to read. Mm-hmm. And I read yours. I said, oh, I'm going to try this guy first, man. This is perfect for me. And I sent it in. And it was almost like the old days in music, getting that rejection notice, because you had kind of disregarded it somehow or hit the wrong button or something. And I think
it timed out. I think, it timed out or something. I'd listened to it. I was just about to, hit the accept button or whatever it was, and it just wouldn't let me. So no.
Well, I was like, man, I was all disappointed for like a couple of days. I was walking around going, that's the one I wanted to read. My girlfriend's going, well, there'd be something else interesting for you. And I said, no, I want that one.
Oh, I feel really bad now that I made you feel like that.
No, no, but it worked out, and I was really happy that I got a chance to read that one. Yeah,
I loved it because I wouldn't have known when the first bit that you read, the audition bit. I didn't really know you were American, because I needed the English speaking quality for the narrator part, because it's based in England and that, and because the main character in it is the Tricky-Jack, who is very he's a Dickensian gentleman, so he was very sort of well-to-do in terms of sort of how he spoke and how he presented himself. So that's the kind of quality I wanted. And then when I realized afterwards that you weren't British, I was more amazed, because the voices the accents and that you do through that are insane. Really.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
No,
Like I
I
said,
loved
it comes pretty natural because I've just heard it my whole life, and you know, and I've been to England before, and I just kind of slip right in with the locals, and my girl's like, how do you? I said, I feel like I'm home, you know. When I go to England, I just feel like these are my people, you know. It doesn't even, and my voice starts changing, you know, the accent starts changing, and then I come home and I gotta, you know, and when I was doing your book, since I'm not a native, you know, even though I'm Brit, I'm not exactly a native. So I found myself slipping into Americanisms. I would, you know, I would do the voice without thinking much about it. And then suddenly a little bit of American would start popping. I'm like, I got to redo that part, man. I
suppose it doesn't help the fact that I do have an American family in it as well. So you had the liberty to dip in and out of it anyway.
Yeah. So it was nice having so many different accents and creatures and people. And I was like, whoa. And like, you know, the story wasn't only great, but the characters, I'm like, oh man, I was digging the characters, man. Ephraim Courtney, I could do that. I could do that whole day, you know. Love that guy, and man. I love Ephraim.
It's weird when you write in a book, you kind of, I mean, for me anyway, I'll play it out in my head. I write it as if it's playing out as a movie or whatever. It's very difficult to sort of pull voices out. You know what they should sound like, but you can never really hear them for yourself. And Ephraim Courtney, for one, was I think one of the first characters in that really blew me away with what you did, because it was like, that is exactly it. And the next one in Passenger 29, when you do the captain, that again was exactly, I didn't have to give any kind of prompt or anything. That was exactly what I was after. So that's when I knew we were onto a winner, when I was sort of getting those. But I wasn't bothered with how long you know, apologizing for how long it's taken. I had no deadline in mind anyway, but the quality of the samples that you were sending through, I just leave you with it. You know, I knew it was going to be good, and I was so pleased when it was finished. And it gave me, I was really excited when you sent me through, you know, a few chapters here and there to listen to, and I knew, because I've got like an hour and a half commute each day at the time. I knew that I'd be able to listen to it then. I was quite excited for listening to the next one and how it was coming together. So, was there one particular part of the story that was either the easiest and the most natural, you really sort of got into it more than the rest? And was there one part that really sort of was tricky?
Well, Alundra was tricky because near the end of the story, you know, we had come up with so many different characters and voices, and then here comes Alundra, this woman that any man would die for, and maybe any woman too. She's just the most gorgeous woman you've ever seen, and she's you know, she's like the queen of hell. She's like this horrible thing that, you know, she'll kiss you and
kill you,
rip your private parts off at the exact same time, you know. And she's happy to do it, you know. So I kept thinking, all right, I always thought German girls were really beautiful, but the accent is just so rough. And I thought, gosh, what accent? And I thought, French, man, let's try just a very light French accent. And I remember asking you, man, I don't think she should be Brit. I'm thinking just when my grandpa came home from World War II, I guess, this my dad told me, he said he was, you know, well, it was actually when he was, you know, at the end of his life, he started getting a little delirious there, and he started talking about somebody named Fifi LaRue.
Okay.
And my grandma, you know, I mean, the guy's, you know, getting to the end of the line here, and he starts raving about Fifi LaRue, and we can only imagine it was somebody he met in World War II. And my grandma, you know, what's she gonna do?
Oh no,
Fifi LaRue. And I always thought, you know, Fifi LaRue had such a voice like, oh, Pooh, I'm so bored, please, you know. And I thought, you know what, if I change that a little bit, that's the way Fifi LaRue sounds in my head. I thought, you know what, I could soften that up and make it a little less poofy,
Mm.
that could be Alundra. So that's, and then you were like, oh, that's good. Let's do that. And I was, that's how I went with Alundra.
And
But
you were giving me ideas for some of these characters, which again, I love the exchange we had, because it's not just like I'm sat in front of a laptop and I'm just writing what's in my head. We were sharing that, bringing it to life. That's what I love about audiobooks. It just gives it that other dimension. Because I had House of Courtney was released as an audiobook in its own right when it was just on its own, before I sort of merged House of Courtney and Black Gang together and created A Necessary End. And there's just something about the guys that did that. They're a local production company called Circle of Spears, and the guy, Sam, who did the voiceover, he had it, again, nailed. And it's just this, it was a different quality than what you had, but there's both stories, when they're read, just, they felt different, but they felt the same, if that it had the same impact. I think the stories that are in A Necessary End, it helps because they're my favorite of what I've written. I didn't have to force them, and I think hearing them come to life in that with what you did it's given me a new appreciation for that book. I think once it was released in book form, I kind of stepped away from it to do other things and I forgot about it, but then hearing it again has made me fall in love with it even more, so I'm really, really excited to see sort of where it goes. And I know we're talking about already.
I'm waiting for the next chapter in the series, man. I'm like, when's it coming out? Come on, hurry up. But I've had books that I've read and then found the audiobook at the library or something, and I grab it's, and you listen, you've already read it and you got your visuals there, and then you listen to it, and it's all like a whole new cool story to it's like I like to play video games too. I don't have much time anymore, but I would always play the game all the way through, and then I'd get the strategy guide, and I would read the strategy guide to find the secrets that I missed. It's like, wow, this is a whole new game. And I think it's the same thing as an audio.
It is, yeah. I used to be a bit like, I didn't have the patience to go back. Once I'd finished a game, I was like, well, I'm done. I know where it ends. It's fine. I wouldn't go back to it. But with audiobooks, you now hit the nail on the head. It is like rediscovering certain parts of it again. Maybe for me, it's like watching a movie I've watched 10 times but having subtitles on, because there's dialogue there I've missed, and all of a sudden it puts a new spin on something that happened.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's not fair for an audiobook reader or narrator. I don't think it's not fair for them to just read it and then send it off. That's why we had a really nice collaboration here, man, because I would send you the chapter, and I thought, well, he needs to be part of it. I mean, it's his story, man. I mean, I would feel like a real jerk if we didn't collaborate on that thing, because I wanted your input and I wanted you to be happy with it, man. My main thing was, I want Chris to be proud of this as he is of his written work, And I know some narrators, they'll just narrate it, send it off to the book company, and next thing you know, it's on Audible, and the author's like, man. I didn't want that. So when I finished a couple chapters, I'd send them, and you'd give me your feedback, and I could tweak it and make it the way you want.
And I that's the way I like to work. I hadn't done it before. It's the first time I put one out there myself. When I had the first audiobook of House of Courtney done, we had the same exchange going, but I didn't. All I did was I just sent my manuscript, and he would they would come back to me with certain pronunciations of something and give me samples and whatever. And I felt part of the process. It wasn't me actually doing anything other than giving the story over. But I mean, with this one, I felt, because I produced the book and everything myself anyway, there's also that other bit of pride in there. This is cool.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's a book to be proud of. I couldn't believe that you were like such a young author. I thought, because it hits all the marks. It doesn't slow down at all. I mean, there's no spot in the book you're thinking, oh, let me just get through this. And there's none of that. From beginning to end, man, it's go. And there's always a twist and turn. I kept wondering, where's the spider thing gonna go? Oh man, dude. And I'm not even afraid of spiders. I don't care. I mean, that dog. I had 2 nightmares over that book, man. One is the spider story,
right?
And I think the other one was when Phil turned. I was like, wow, man, the house got him or something. And that's why I asked you. I'm like, I wasn't totally sure. Is that Phil doing that, man? Yeah. Because, you know, he had just turned from like their buddy, you know, a little bit on the outside. But next thing you know, he's just gone into total maniac mode. And I thought maybe the house or something got him, something in the house, the witch's spirit or something. And you know, I go to bed thinking about it. Yeah. And I go to sleep and I'm, you know, Lauren's like, what, dude? No, nothing. I'm fine.
And that's, you know, disturbing for yourself. That's my job done. You know, that's what you
Yeah,
kind of
man.
want especially when you're writing horror. The Omidia that you were talking about, the spider, that was actually the second story I ever wrote. I wrote my first book, and then that just, it sort of came out of nowhere because I do have a slight fear of big spiders. And I thought, what can get me over that? Let's write a story about the biggest spider that I can think of, you know. And
oh my God, dude! And then when this, I like when the stories continue into each other. You know, the spider, the story of the spider, you think it's over, and then, you know, and then Phil leaves that girl to sit there for a monstrous spider that comes out of the woods, and you're like, what? That's back! You know, you're like, no. You know, I thought it'd be like, imagine like an alien race that comes to Earth. And they don't, you know, they kind of crash land or whatever, and they don't know that there's people or anything, and they land in the ocean or you know, on the beach or something, and they're, you know, radioing back, you know, hey, we're on this planet, we're making repairs, and they see like a king crab come up to the window, you know, or jellyfish even, you know? And they're thinking, oh, there's so much weird life on this, and they get outside of the spacecraft, and then there's an alligator walking on the beach. You know, all these weird things, man. Like a king crab or something with the legs, and spiders and alligators.
A whole
they
series
don't look like they should exist, you know?
Yeah.
An octopus.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't even look like it should be something. You know?
I read a couple of years ago. I read the Steve Alton Meg series. I don't know if you've ever read that.
Oh, that was great, yeah.
Yeah, because it was, I became fascinated. I've always been fascinated with sea creatures, and the fact that, you know, that so very little of our ocean has been explored. So you're like, these things could be out there. We don't know. So your imagination just goes. I mean, he's got life in that series for decades, I think, if he wanted to, because he could really just bring up anything and just carry it on.
You're right. It's very good. And you know what? I don't remember how big the Meg was in the story. Big. And then the baby grew. Yeah. You know, gigantic. But, you know, the ocean is so huge. How much can we have explored of it, you know, and it's always changing. So even if you explored pieces of it, it's always changing into something else. And I remember when I was when I was a little kid, maybe Jaws 3 or something came out, and I, you know, of course that scared everyone. Yeah. And I was reading something about Jacques Cousteau had said that he was in a deep sea submersible one time, and it's just black down there. And he said they were doing a check, and I don't know, it was him and another guy. Oh, it was 2 men, I think, or something. And he said, okay, turn on the lights. And they turned the lights on, and he said right outside the window was a 60-foot great white shark. Wow. And I mean, this is coming from Jacques Cousteau. And I remember reading that and thinking, well, it doesn't sound so big. And, you know, you're a little kid, you don't know what 60 feet is. And then you see the one in Jaws is like 15, and you're like,
puts in perspective.
Whoa. And then, you know, you look, it's the size of a school bus, you know. And he said that in this little excerpt I read by him, he said when they turned the lights on, it freaked out and left. They never saw it again because it was just living in the black down there, or it was in the black down there, and they freaked it out and it took off running. Yeah. But I was like, 60, and that's coming from Jacques Cousteau. Oh no!
Yes, it's got to be fairly. Well, there's arguments going on now about whether the megalodon actually still exists. You know, and I you can't disprove it, in my opinion.
No, you can't. I mean, even though the Earth changed at that time and most things died out, there's still warm spots in the ocean. Yeah. You know, I mean, it would need sunlight a lot less than some other things. You know, so. Hey, man.
As fantastical as his series might seem, when you read it, you're actually this could be possible, and it really does get you thinking. And it's quite. But I really admire the fact that I've read quite a few of his series, you know, different ones like the Mayan Prophecy series he's had as well. And, you know, he can turn his attention to some quite intriguing subjects, you know, thought-provoking. It's not just like a story that's on the page and then you put it down and you can forget about it. You really do carry on thinking.
Right. And if it's something that possibly could be real, that's even scarier, you know, like looking over your shoulder.
My problem as a writer, I start off and I was like, every time I want to write a story which could be rooted in reality, but then something goes in that I'm like, I can't ignore this. I know it's completely out there and it's probably never going to happen. But
if it's good, chase it.
Yeah, that's it.
That should be the bottom line all the time, you know, whether you want, you know, and I've done that. I've written a song and then suddenly something else takes off and I'm like, you know what? I really liked this idea, but it's not worth it. This one's the one I need to go at. And then the thing I'm writing changes. It's just almost the exact same thing, you know. You got to go after what's good.
That's it. So, cool. Winded down to the last little bit of the interview now. This has been absolutely amazing catching up with you. Is there anything that you've got going on at the moment or in the future that you can talk about? I know you've got a few things on the road.
Yeah, I think I'm the only thing I can't I can talk about it, but I can't show it anyway. I can't, you know, on Zoom I couldn't show it anyway. I guess unless I held up my phone. I've got a little cartoon coming up on the Cartoon Network. I'm doing the voice of a fish.
Oh, cool.
And it's basically just the Ray Romano. They wanted me to sound kind of like Ray Romano. So they got a little fish that sounds kind of like Billy Crystal, and then the big fish is Ray Romano. And that's really the only thing I can't really show. Like I haven't posted it. I like to keep, I don't like to get personal on Facebook. I don't want to show my family stuff, and I don't want to get, you know, involved in that. But I like to post the professional things that I'm doing just to get people excited about it, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there who I'm friends with, you know, because of my music thing. But the fish thing is pretty neat. And, you know, he just says, like they're eating fish. He says, it's different colors. I don't want different colors, you know. That weird, he sounds kind of like Snuffleupagus, you know, or something like that. So
amazing.
I've got that cartoon that they're trying. It's another pilot.
Cool.
And it's a short cartoon that'll be interspersed between the regular cartoons. And I think the makers of, Gumball, I think they're the ones behind it. But I can't show it. I'm, you know.
Yeah, no, that's
NDA,
cool.
sign this NDA. You know, I can talk about it, but you can't see
Can't
it
show
yet.
anything. Okay, that's cool.
And I've got the TV show I'm doing is it's another pilot series. I'm with a young, cute girl. She's my co-host, and the show's called Modern Classics. And of course, she teases me because I'm old school, and she's got her GPS out. And in one episode, we're driving down the road going to interview somebody. It's about people with classic cars, classic boats, classic airplanes.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's pretty neat, you know, and the passion they have for these different things. And so we go and we interview them, and we also stop at like roads, like oddball diners and things, and we explore some of that, and then the producers and directors film some of that, so you can see some of the places along the way. And like I'll say, her name's Diana. I call her Mally. Her last name's Malici or something like that. And I just call her Mally. I say, hey Mally, reach in the glove box here and pull that map out. This big map's flying all over the truck, you know. And she's like, what? And she pulls out her GPS on her phone. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I thought she was going to take a picture. She's like, I'm just going to use GPS. What? You know, and she goes, I can't believe you used this thing. So the whole rest of the episode, you see her fumbling with this. You know, I'm talking to somebody. You see her in the background trying to refold this stupid map. At the end of the episode, you know, I did it. It's over. So there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of comedy in there. And like,
awesome.
And she's real cute. She's real nice. We get along. We have a really nice chemistry. So it's working out really well.
Brilliant.
But she, like every time a guy has this cool car, he'll say, you know, hey, one of you guys want to take a ride? Oh yeah, we both, and they always take her. Yeah, I look at the camera. What a surprise! Every time the cute girl gets to go.
You'll get yours. Yeah.
And then the whole concept is she's modern and I'm the classic.
How much of that then is stuff that you're? Is it scripted, the exchange between you, or is it very organic?
No, it wasn't scripted at all.
Awesome.
It's just starting to happen. You know,
Brilliant.
like the very first time she said, "Hi, I'm okay. Take care. I'm Diana. I'm Dave," and she said, "I'm modern." And I'm like, "I'm classic." So now we just keep it going. You know.
Cool. Oh, that's
So yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's brilliant. No, I encourage anyone really to if you got any pages, any social media that people can follow you to see what you're up to.
They can. I've just got Facebook. I think it's Jack Davidson. It's I think the address is Jack Davidson Facebook. It's kind of an alter ego for my
we
one
all
of my
need
little.
one of those.
Yeah, well, it's a project, you know, like a punk metal project, and we disguise ourselves, you know.
Cool.
We don't want people to see how old we are, so we paint our faces like zombies, you know. But
like it. Cool.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone to hunt you out and keep up with what you're doing, because you got a lot of exciting stuff. And obviously, again, anyone listening to this, check out Unnecessary End, the audiobook, available on Audible and Amazon. I can't thank you enough, really, for what you've done for that.
Oh, man, my pleasure, man. It was nice having the collaboration, and I'm going to audition for the next one too.
I don't even think I need to go to that stage. I think it's pretty much a given that I'd love for you to work on another one once I've done my bit and written it. You know, that'll be a start. But
yeah, man, I'm ready to go. I love your work.
Thank you, man.
I'm a fan. Even if I wouldn't have got the gig, I would have read the book and been like, this is my new favorite guy, man.
You're too kind, sir. No, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. And hopefully, again down the road, have you back. You know, once there's projects out there we can talk about again, it'll be brilliant.
Okay.
So,
all right, man.
Thank you very much. So,
okay, thanks, buddy.
Cheers, mate. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated about all future shows.